So, for those of you who know me, you know that I, legally speaking, cannot drive, but I've always been a major car enthusiast. For the longest time, we thought I'd be able to drive, but unfortunately, due to various parameters related with my vision, that's not going to happen. Um, but that's actually why I've become a major fan of electric cars. I'll always like my Mustangs and my Corvettes and what have you. And I've actually become a major fan of a lot of the British subcompacts, European subcompacts that I wish they'd bring more of over here to the US. But I've always been a major fan of electric cars, and I'll tell you why. And the number one example actually would be right here in the Nissan Leaf. In the domestic market in Japan, they are working to make the Nissan Leaf a driverless electric car. Now I'm going to stop and let that sink in for a moment. All you have to do is type, all you would have to do is type in your destination, and the car will take care of the rest. Now right now they're doing some testing, like I said, in the domestic market in Japan, and this is extremely early. What it was basically was they took a fully electric, computer-driven Nissan Leaf that's already on the market right now, and when I say computer-driven, I mean there's no mechanical linkages between the transmission or the accelerator and a motor up front. Like I said, it's all wires and computer driven. So they've taken a Nissan Leaf and basically turned it into a driverless car, and they're doing some preliminary tests. It's very early on. They don't expect this to be on the market for another 7 years at the earliest. So it's got a long way to come. But it got me to thinking, the fact that they were already doing this. What better car to turn into an electric to a driverless car than an electric one? It's already completely computer driven anyway. All you have to do is feed in some AI and equip it with the proper technology to see where it's going. Feed in the coordinates into the GPS, and off you go. And this got me thinking. There are a lot of mainstream apps on iOS and Android that are completely accessible to the blind. So I began to think about it, and I'm wondering, how hard could it be to build software that could interact with your electric car and give people who are blind complete independence. Now keep in mind, this is a pipe dream. This is a pipe dream and probably won't be realized for several years. But I'm just, talking about the potential this could have. If that does come to pass, now I don't necessarily need a talking GPS. I could interact with the GPS on the dash just fine, because I do have some usable vision. I don't have enough to legally drive, but I do have some usable vision to where if I get close, I can interact with GPSs. In fact, I do it all the time whenever I get into a car that has one. So, case in point, one of my relatives recently bought a car that had onboard GPS, and I helped them out with it. So the idea of having completely pollution-free, completely accessible, go-anywhere transportation for people who can't see well, I mean, what better car to build, a completely driverless automated vehicle than an electric car? And I'll share with you some of my choices. There's the Nissan Leaf. There is also the Ford Focus Electric. Now the Ford Focus Electric is basically a standard Focus hatchback that has been converted to complete electricity. They've also got a plug-in hybrid version, which they call the Energy, but I like the fully electric one most. And I think the main thing that won me over with this is the styling. But I've always been a fan of practicality over styling, substance over looks. And basically what I mean is, I always favor the practicality of hatchbacks over sedans or saloons, depending on what part of the world you're from. And I've also been a fan of the wagon or the estate, because of the increased cargo capacity and the increased flexibility that they offer. But the trouble with these two is range. Unfortunately, you can't get more than maybe 100 miles, which is fine for putting about town, but if you want to get on the open highway and do some major driving, you can't do that, unfortunately, because the charging infrastructure, nationally speaking, in the cities, there are charging stations popping up all over the place. But have you been to a rest stop recently? Now, I haven't been in the last 2 years, so help me out here. Has anybody been to a rest stop recently or a hotel that has had an electric charging station of some kind? I just recently came back from vacation, and the hotel that we stayed at did not have any electric charging port whatsoever. So that's the problem with range. Speaking of range, that's the main reason that I think that the Tesla Model S would be perfect. Because if you're willing to shell out the money, and unfortunately it's not cheap, it's around 80 grand, which you might think that's expensive, but this is actually competing with the BMW 5 Series directly, and if you look at it on those terms, they're actually pretty evenly matched. The 80 grand will get you a battery pack that will allow you to run for around 300 miles on a charge. That right there is the biggest selling point in my book for this, is the range. Because this is the first truly usable electric vehicle for more than just doing city errands. And also it's got more room than any of the others, which is something that I really like personally, both for luggage and people. But no, the Tesla Model S, I think, would be perfect for building a fully accessible driverless car because of the range, because of the room. You get 2 separate cargo spaces here in the front and in the back. So I just think that we've got something here with automakers coming up with electric cars all the time. And I apologize for my pauses. I'm basically thinking here as I speak. So I think the Tesla Model S is definitely worth considering, and so is this. Like I told you, I just came back from a short vacation. We rented from Hertz, and they gave us a Fiat 500 Sport. This one is the electric, the Fiat 500e. And I personally loved it. I mean, it didn't have much room, but if it's just you and one other person, which for me it was, just you and one other person, it's perfect. You just fold down the back seats. You got plenty of cargo space for three bags, which if you're going for a short getaway for a week, it's perfect. Plus, I love the styling. And I've always liked small cars just in general because they're very, very maneuverable, which is really good for very tight metropolitan areas, Atlanta, San Francisco, what have you. So definitely on the top of my list is the 500 electric. And also because if you live in California, which at the moment this is only available in California, I hope they get it out to other states soon. If you're willing to go ahead and get this, and they put on all of the discounts you could possibly get, I believe the price has been knocked down from 33 down to around maybe 12, 13, 14, which for an electric car is like dirt cheap. But no, just so many styles to choose from, so many different options, and I don't see, maybe somebody could educate me, but I don't see the complication necessarily in taking, now here's my plan. Well, not my plan, I should say, the way I see things. Just take an off-the-shelf app that's already accessible to people who are blind or have low vision and be able to have it act as the onboard GPS and feed the information into the car's driverless control system. And this would be great for the Fiat because with the Fiat 500, you can't get a built-in GPS into the dash. The closest thing they offer for you is a little TomTom that clips, let's see if we can see the steering column here in this. Yeah, here we go. So right about right there, for those of you who can't see, basically to the immediate right of the instrument cluster. And obviously off-the-shelf GPSs are completely visual and they can't talk. Standalone units. But if you use your smartphone and you use an accessible app, see where I'm going? I don't see why that information couldn't be fed into the car either via Bluetooth or through a charging system, like the phone could send GPS information into the car while the phone itself is being charged. I mean, just think about the possibilities here. Another final consideration that I have, and I think it's mainly because I've been a fan of this for so long, is the Smart Fortwo, and this particular one is the electric drive. Now, as I understand, it's a little bit, the Fortwo, the way it drives, is a bit peppier than the gasoline version, and I think it has to do with the transmission. But like I said, I've always liked the little cars because of the fact that they're so maneuverable in tight spots. But the beautiful part about all of these cars, the way I see it, is I'm thinking of a day where people who cannot legally drive for reasons of vision or mobility or what have you could hop into this vehicle, program a GPS destination, and it will drive itself and notify you. In the case of people who are blind, if you want to, I could see them notifying you of landmarks on the way, alerting you like charging stations, or you could push. A lot of modern cars these days have a button, and you could probably label that with a lock dot. And the button allows you to interact with the car's onboard stereo and GPS system through voice command. So you could just say, find restaurant, it'll find you a restaurant, add that restaurant to the current route, which is nothing new. Current GPS systems can do this. What I'm thinking is take it and just plug it into the car's central computer, into the GPS, into the driverless computer, and the car would take you there. Now, again, this is very early, I don't know if I want to say, I don't want to say primitive because it's very advanced technology, but it's very, very early on. For those of you who are software developers, I know some HTML myself. If you're software developers, I would call this an alpha release for many of these cars. They're testing the waters, and California in particular has managed to get in some legislation where if the automakers want to continue selling their vehicles, then they need to have at least one electric model. And I think that's part of what's making all these electric cars pop up. Personally, I think that should be national legislation, but that's a discussion for another day. But what do you guys think? The potential that a driverless electric car could have for independent transportation for people with disabilities. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.